All right, good afternoon, everyone. You can hear me okay? I know you guys, during this conference, there are a lot of options that you guys have, so I definitely appreciate you guys investing about an hour to come see what I plan to present to you guys. So definitely appreciate that. So I would like to get started here, and hopefully I can make this hour worth your investment. My name is Jeff Coleman, and I work at Cox Communications. I've been working there for about 10 years now, supporting our field operations department. So a little bit about the agenda today, do a brief introduction, and then this topic is really going to be summed up as how do you leverage Tableau in the decision-making process. A lot of us out here are, some of us are just doing dashboards, want to do pretty charts. We know all that Tableau is capable of doing that, but how do we really take Tableau and leverage it in the business decision-making process so those that are using the tools that we create can get the most out of what we're doing? You guys are going to spend a lot of time and a lot of effort into putting together some of the things that you're going to put together in Tableau. But at the end of the day, you want to make sure that that time is well spent and that your users or your end users are getting as much out of it as possible. So that's what this topic is all about. I'm going to run through some high-level concepts real quickly and talk about some of the building blocks. And then I'm going to do that very quickly because I really want you guys to see a real live demonstration of how we have done that at Cox. So we're going to speed through some of the boring stuff, and then we're going to get to the part you really probably came to see is how do you do this in action. So who is Cox? Cox is the third largest cable company in the United States, for those who didn't know. And we are really in the business of what we call providing life's most valuable connections. So whether that is connecting someone in the community to their local news through their local local cable news channel, or whether that is connecting loved ones across the world through video chat, or whether that is connecting doctors and patients together through their new smart devices, we are in the business of providing those connections. Decisioning, not dashboarding. So what I mean by that is, imagine, if you will, that all of the effort that you put into those dashboards, that you really want these things not to be just pretty images on a screen. You really want them to provide that end user with the value that they are looking for. So what do I mean? What type of value? You want that end user to be able to get the information they need at the time that they need it to make those critical business decisions. There's nothing worse for someone that is needing to make decisions on your data than you telling them that you've got to run off and you've got to pull the data together, you've got to query it, you've got to figure out a way to present it, and then you present that like 6 weeks later. A lot of the time, for a lot of the people that are requesting your information, this is too long. The time has passed. And even at Cox, for the line of business that I support, sometimes what happened yesterday is irrelevant to the decisions we need to make today. Sometimes what happened in the morning is irrelevant to the things that we need to make decisions on in the afternoon. So for us, really having that, I call delivering data or delivering insights at the speed of business. You want to be able to provide that information to the end user, to whoever needs it at the time that they need it to make those business decisions. You also want to start to get out of what happened in the past and really start to be able to meet the user in the future. What type of data, what type of insights do they need that are going to help them with their planning in the future, or how they're going to approach making these decisions in the future, and not necessarily caught up on what happened last month or last year. And then one of the things that we would like to do is we want to look across all levels of leadership. You want to be able to speak to not just the executive leaders, but also the mid-managers and those that make those decisions on the front line every day. So being able to leverage what you do across multiple levels of leadership is also something that we keep at the front of our minds. And lastly, we always want to have something that helps us monitor those results. When you go in to stand up a new initiative, or you've got something, some critical decision that you want to implement, always being able to give the end user a way to manage and monitor those results are critical to the things that we do. So as we know, Tableau is a perfect tool for us to be able to visualize really the data behind that, the science and the decision-making process. And so we get into a point where you can boil these down into what we call 3 enablement pillars. Leveraging what you do across multiple leadership levels, really being able to anticipate the user, what question are they going to ask, what is the next thing that once they see what you present, what is really the next thing that they would want to know, and be able to anticipate that in the decision-making process. And once you bring all of this together, it really does enable the tool that you created to be a perfect tool for enabling that decision-making process. And so when we talk about this, one of the things that we want to do is we talk about this in three high-level concepts. The executive dashboard, which is the first thing that your users will see when they access your tool. And this is really for that high-level information that will provide them the context for their decision-making process, really the current state of affairs, if you will. And then we move on to what we call our opportunity dashboards, or our opportunity views. These are a little step deeper and allow you to really highlight and focus on those things that are going to provide you areas of investigation or areas of improvement. And the next type of view that we talk about are the analytical views. These are more catered to the ones that are on the front line, really deep into the weeds of the decision-making process, that will really allow them to pinpoint specific areas that they need to concentrate on to really enhance the business or the decision-making process. So now that we've quickly gotten through that, I want to take the rest of the balance of the time to go through a real live demonstration of a tool that we use at Cox. And it has enabled us to get our hands on one of our operational concerns, and that is around repeat rates. So for those of you who have some cable provider, subscribe to some cable provider, whether it is through video or data, for Cox, if you have the person, the technician that comes out to install new products or services or troubleshoot issues, that technician and that part of the operations is what we call our field operations. And what we want to do, our mandate is to do our job in the most efficient way possible, costing and reduce as many costs as possible, and provide the highest level of quality and service back to the customer as we can. And so when we go out to do a job, we want to do that job right the first time. And if we don't do that job and have to come back to that customer within 30 days, we call that a repeat. For us, that's bad customer experience, and as well as it is unnecessary OpEx or operational dollars that the organization has to incur. So obviously, everything that we do, we want to make sure that we reduce this repeat rate as much as possible. And this next tool that I'm going to go through in a live demo really shows how we utilize Tableau to do that. And so we start by the executive overview. And so this is an executive overview, and what you see here is really high-level information that will allow us to quickly understand where we are and how the business is performing. And so when an executive comes onto the dashboard, you can quickly see here that overall, here's what our repeat rates are, here's what the trend is, and here is the overall mapping that can show you just how well we are doing. And so we have a little bit of scaling issues here. Let me see if I can change this. You guys are going to see a picture of my little one, so he knows he's getting some Tableau prime time here. Let's see if I can change the resolution. Still did not change. One more time. And it keeps going back. All right. Unfortunately, it is doing some auto adjusting here, but we'll try to see if we can get it all on the same page. But this is the executive dashboard. And so if you scroll, I'm going to scroll over, and you can quickly see on a page that you have all of the information that an executive would need to really get a high level sense of what's going on with what's the state of affairs with our repeat rates. Not only that, we do like to provide some level of insights, and this is a way so that our end users don't have to really comb through the data or comb through the visuals, so to speak. We give some type of dynamic insights on the page that will allow them to see quickly what are the things that we would want them to call out to see. So one of the things that you may notice on the page is there are not a lot of drop downs. Matter of fact, there's only one drop down, and that's not even a filter, that's a parameter. But there are no drop down filters on the page, and we do this by design. One of the reasons why we do this is because what we found is that when we are migrating some of our users from Excel to a more Tableau environment, we found that the way to really engage them, to really pull them in and to help along with that transition is really get them to engage and interact with the tool. So we take a lot of the drop downs out of the tool and we allow them to really interact through a lot of the action filters. So what do I mean by that is that quickly, this is a general overview, a company overview of the state of affairs. But if you're a VP in Southeast or Central Region, you really don't care about the enterprise at large, but you really want to get a handle on what's the overall state of affairs for my Central Region. So you can click Central Region now, and the page is now all about Central Region and highlights the things about Central Region that are relevant. So even in the stat ranking, they're now highlighted, and within the year-to-date performance, you can see that the Central Region sites are the ones that are highlighted. And so this allows them to quickly dive in, and if I wanted to dive in further, maybe you are a manager not in Central Region, but in Oklahoma City. So now I click Oklahoma City, and now this page is all about Oklahoma City. And so this gives those executives at multiple levels, or those leaders at multiple levels, the ability to have an overview that is catered to the things that they care about. Not only that, is that this 9.5% is a rolling 12-month view of that rate. So for us that said, okay, I don't really care about what happened over the last 12 months. I really care about the state of affairs right now. So we're able to quickly jump into September by clicking September. And now this is all about September and the last 4 weeks within September. And if you may not have noticed this, but every time I click something, the insights changes dynamically, because now I want the user to concentrate on different insights based upon what they focused on. So this is a high-level view that on the face of it, when you first get on the dashboard, may not seem like there's a lot there, but the user can really quickly just dive into all of the relevant things that they really care about. So now I want to take it to the next level down, which we call the operational view or the opportunity view. This allows a little bit more in the weeds, but it really allows you to start to focus in on, okay, what questions do I need to ask? Where do I need to go to look for areas of opportunity? Where do I need to look for areas of what I would call benchmark performance, where I can say, hey, let's figure out how we can mimic those good behaviors. So again, since this is about looking for opportunity, on this next level down, we've brought it down. Instead of a rolling 12-month view, this is a rolling 12-week view. So a lot more relevant for the context of the things that have happened recently that we can control. So now we've broken this 10.2 up into what the different high-level job categories. So I can quickly see here, job number 3 is exhibiting benchmark performance, and job number 2 is exhibiting opportunity. So if I wanted to dive into job number 2, I can quickly do that, and now I am all about job number 2 and what is the current trend here. And now I have a little bit more detail down here in the bottom left corner that really allows me to focus in a little bit more at a little more granularity of what are the things within job number 2 that I need to concentrate on. You will start to see now we're using color in this to really highlight where we have opportunity and where we have those things that are benchmark performance. So when I look at it, I'm seeing that the detailed job number 4 under the job number 2 category is something that is above what I would call above the average for those jobs in that category. And not only that, we've provided these bar charts that allow me to see, is my opportunity a rate or a volume exercise here? So while job number 2, I can scroll down here and see that let's scroll all the way down to the bottom here, so give you an example. While job 30 is definitely over here on the high end of the repeat rate scale at 18.0, over 18%, the user knows that he doesn't really need, if he wants to move the meter, there are not a lot of jobs, there are not a lot of opportunity for him to move the meter in that instance. So he or she would want to concentrate on those jobs that have a lot of volume but have a higher rate. So it looks that job number 4 and job number 7 will really quickly stand out to the end user of, hey, here's where I really want to concentrate. Here's the things that I want to look at. Not only that though, but he or she can look at job number 6 and say, hey, what is it about this job that we perform a lot of these jobs, but we have a very good success rate for those jobs. So where do we also not have opportunity to get better, but where do I see where I need to, I can mimic some good behaviors and see why we are having good success in one area and be able to use those best case practices to be able to pull up those jobs in those opportunity areas. And over here to the right, we have what we call a little bit more about the resolution category. So what this is showing that is, again, we've selected, just to kind of go back and level set, we're selecting the Southeast region. Not only that Southeast region, but our in-house in-house technicians for the Southeast region. And each dot represents a site within the Southeast region, and the bar represents the enterprise average. So I can quickly see what sites are over and under indexing in a different category as it relates to how we're performing for the entire company. So I can say, hey, site number 5 within the Southeast region, what are they doing so well that they are beating the enterprise average, and be able to mimic that success for site number 1, site number 4, and site number 3. And so the end user can quickly kind of see very visually, without doing much discovery at all, of, hey, here's where I have opportunities to get better, and here's where I have opportunities to really mimic the good behavior in certain areas. The next view that I want to show you again is a little bit deeper down into the wormhole for us, and it is a more analytic view. And so to level set, what you're looking at is that when we go out on a repeat, we can repeat for various different issues. It could be because of workmanship. The first technician didn't do the job right the first time. It could be because there was an area outage where that was something out of our control, where we just had an outage. It could be because something happened with the CPE that we just installed, and now that CPE is having is performing badly. For our case, what I wanted to focus in at the front line of the things that we can control is I wanted to boil the repeat rates down to those things that our front line can control, so they can make those decisions with those technicians on the front line in a very easy and a quick fashion, without having to worry about all of the noise that could be impacting their overall repeat rates. So this page is an analytical view, a lot more deeper into the weeds, and really allows our leadership on the front line to have discussions with our technicians around good behaviors and bad behaviors, and where they need to go to really improve the overall performance. You can see that we've carried Southeast region over so that the user does not have any loss in momentum, so to speak, when they're going from one view to the next. They don't have to re-click anything that they've clicked before. And now they are able to look at this for all of the things that we can control. So again, if I wanted to jump into job 2, I can now look at this from the perspective of job 2 of all of the things that we can control. Not only that, is that I provide the user the ability to look at the top 10%. So maybe they only want to look at the top 30% of jobs based upon a volume perspective, because if they move the meter in those jobs, well, that's the tide that raises or lowers all boats. So we can really concentrate on those things. Or maybe they want to see everything in the soup, and therefore they can get a list of all of those jobs, all the way down to the jobs where it looks like this one we only performed one job over the last 12 weeks. So it really gives context to what you're looking at, and really for the end user to be able to concentrate where they want to concentrate. So now the end user they can select their leadership position. I give them ability to select, maybe you're a director and you really only want to look at things in the director's lens. So now you can select the director's lens, and now these are all, each dot represents a director in the Southeast region. So I can provide this for multiple leadership levels. That gets back to our one of the first things I talked about. How do you leverage this across multiple leadership levels? No matter the leadership level, that person can come in, select what their leadership level is. They can select who they are in that region. So we've selected Southeast region, and we'll just select Mr. Darren here. And now they can see the direct reports of those that direct that report to them. So for each director, their direct reports are managers. So he has 2 managers here, and it looks like a very small dot down here that is not a lot of work, but those are the 2 directors. For the context of here, I'm going to select the supervisor level, and that's so we have a lot more dots on the screen. So now I'm looking at the supervisor level, and each dot on the supervisor level represents a technician. So now I know where are my best performing technicians and where are my my benchmark technicians and my opportunity technicians, and quickly be able to dive into those. So if I say, hey, I wanted to, what's going on with technician 311, I'm able to click technician 311, and I'm able to see quickly what is his trend over the last 12 weeks. What jobs does he have benchmark or opportunity performance at the highest level, and where at the lower grains where I can have some specific conversations with that technician in the areas that are really going to matter to him. Not only that, we provide them a heat map that says, hey, you need to concentrate, here are the areas that you need to concentrate in, the things that we are finding when we come behind you, the things that we have to solve that we want you to get better at resolving the first time. And down at the bottom, we provide even more detailed information that allows them to have those conversations that really say, hey, here is the actual job that you ran on. Here is the date that you completed that job. Here's the type of job that was. Here is the job, the repeat job that we had to come back. Here is what they found. And here's the amount of time that it actually took them to come to have to revisit that customer. So that repeat interval is the amount of time that we designate between the original job and the repeat job. And the reason why this is relevant for us is because our repeat horizon is on a 30-day horizon. What that means is if we have to go back to that customer within 30 days, that factors into a repeat. But for the technician, we want to be able to have those conversations as quickly as possible. We don't want to have to wait 30 days to have a conversation with a technician, and he may not even remember what he did 30 days ago. So we can use this repeat interval to really talk about those jobs where it just happened. So for this first job, what this is saying is that it took the repeat interval is 24 hours. It took us less than 24 hours for that customer to call in for a follow-up issue. So now I just made this, we talk about speed of delivery and having, making sure that the data is meeting those users' needs when they need it. This is something that we put in there to make sure that we are able to meet that speed and meet the velocity that our end users really need. And so we can have those relevant conversations. Not only that, if it's something where the interval is on the 30th day, well, that starts to get into areas where it may not be within that technician's control. So that is another reason why we wanted to provide that context around the data that says, hey, let's make sure that when you're having these conversations, that we're having these conversations on the things that just happened, that are more relevant, that are more fresh, that are really fresh on the technician's mind, and those things that aren't starting to get in the gray area of what that technician could or could not control. And lastly, this is a new view that we started to put together, and this is an ad hoc analysis view. A lot of times what we want to see is, okay, this is all about repeat rates, but how does this look when I juxtapose repeat rates with some of our other key metrics? Maybe we want to look at some of our customer experience metrics. Maybe we want to look at this with the amount of time that it took those technicians to do the job to see if the technician spends more or less time. How does that start to really impact their repeat rates? So this is an ad hoc analysis page. Again, we've selected Southeast region. For this, I'm going to just kind of switch it up so that we don't look at the same region all the way throughout the presentation. let's go back to central region here. And so you can see that the insights changes every time that I make a selection. So now it's saying that, well, let me back up. Not only do we allow the user to select what secondary metric they would like to see juxtaposed against the repeat rate, we also allow them to choose whatever their granularity they want their granularity to be. So maybe you want each dot or each grain to represent my install jobs. Maybe I want each dot to represent my service related jobs. Or I want it to represent one of my managers. So they can pick whatever grain that they want to choose, all the way down to the technician level, whatever grain they want to choose, and they can see their repeat rate juxtaposed with their secondary metric. So for this, I've chosen NPS. For those of you who are not familiar with NPS, NPS is simply our customer experience metric. So now each dot is color-coded based upon being a benchmark or opportunity performer. If they are in the orange, that means that they are an opportunity performer. That means that they are performing worse than the enterprise average in both of the categories, both repeat and the NPS. I can choose any other category, and you can see that it will change based upon, let me go to 40, all right. It will change based upon whatever category, whatever that secondary metric is. Not only that, is that the insights are also changing. So what the insights are telling me, since I chose the technician grain, that here are the following technicians that are contributing the greatest impact to the repeat rate over this time period. And they are contributing, and you can see which are the highest ones. I'm going to go back to the install jobs here just for the sake. Let me choose 80%, get more install jobs on the screen. And so now it's saying here are the install jobs that are contributing to the repeat rate. They are contributing 40%. They are having a 40% impact over the repeat rate, but they are only 36% of the jobs that are eligible for repeat. So what that's telling you is that quickly that these jobs are over-indexing and are really raising the repeat rate. So if we concentrated on these jobs, these would be the tide that sinks all the boats. So if I wanted to quickly highlight this number one job, I can see where in the ad hoc view that job falls out, and really get a sense of that job. Maybe I want to go back to the NPS here so we can see. And the blue, I don't know if I said the blue is the benchmark. That means that they are performing better than the enterprise average in both categories. The middle are the ones that are in between. Again, it's dynamic, so if I wanted to look at just the ones in site 3 or whatever site, I can choose whatever site I want to concentrate on, and now I can get very specific about the ad hoc analysis in that view. We've even given the user the ability to pull more than one repeat rate. So not just look at the overall repeat rate, but maybe we wanted to look at the repeat rate from the things that the field service technicians can control, because that is what we cared about. Or maybe we cared about the plant repeat rate. That means the repeat rate that is all about the things that are network related. Well, if I wanted to pull that one up, maybe I wanted to look at that against another secondary network related metric, which is a home cert pass rate. And maybe I really don't care about it at the job level, because this is a network related issue. Maybe I wanted to look at all of the network nodes in that site to make it really relevant. So now I've just taken all of this information and given it to the user in a way that it is relevant to them in whatever view they want to look at. If they wanted to look at a performance related view, they can pick some performance related metrics. If they wanted to look at network topology related view, now that end user can pick the specific repeat rate and the specific grain that is related to them in that network topology view. And that is what we talk about in being able to utilize, help build tools that really help the decision-making process for all of your end users. You want to make sure that it is as specific to their needs and really meets the user where they are when they're utilizing your tools. And so that really kind of wraps it up for me today, and showing you all of the things that kind of go into the soup, if you will, of being able to create those things that are not just simply dashboards, but are really decision-making tools that you can take back to your end users and really help facilitate the decision-making process for you and your clients. And so with that, if there are any other questions. So the backstory really on that, I don't know if you heard it say, how do we get, what are the things that go into the backstory of being able to impact the decision-making process, and how do you make sure that you are, have that in mind when you are designing your tools? And so one of the things that we like to do, obviously, is go meet with those decision makers and understand what is it that is relevant to them. What is the information, if they can have any information on their hands at any given time, what would that information be, and how will it help them in helping them make those decisions, And once we have that and have a clear understanding of what that is, then it starts the ideation process. Okay, what is the best way that us as creators, what is the best way to present that so that it is ease of use for the end maker, that it really pulls out those things that you want that decision maker to pull out. You want to make sure that we really try to strip away the noise, if you will, and really start to present them with the things that they've told us about that is really going to move the meter for them. The other thing that we really do is really get into the business of the end user. What is it that they are in the business of doing? Really understanding what it is what is their business model, because you can't properly impact the decision-making process if you really don't know the business that the end user is in. One of the examples that we have is for us as a field operations department, there isn't a lot that happens to us that we can control other than performance. So when we took a step back and we said, hey, what is it that we want to get out when we are developing something for our department, we had to boil it down to what are we in the business of doing? We're in the business of handling transactions in the most cost-effective way with the highest level of quality. So once we understood what we are in the business of, then that helps us formulate any type of dashboards or any type of tools that we're going to need to really move the meter for us. Yes. So it came from us, but it really was, again, goes back to the users. Having sit with a lot of the executive leaders and saying, okay, what is it that they really want to know when they come to an executive dashboard? A lot of times, as we started to put together executive dashboards, that was the one thing that jumped out when we presented it to an executive is like, okay, what should I know? And so every time we started to hear that so often, we took a step back and said, okay, how can we put some insights on our executive dashboard that really gives them a high level of here's what you should know, so that they don't have to click here or do this or do that. It really starts to really kind of sets the table before they even look at anything on the page. It really starts to set the table of here's what you should know, here's the insights, and here's the value that I'm going to give you, and then allow you to do some more self-discovery as you go through and utilizing the tool. We were in a heavy OB environment. So for those of you who are familiar with the OBIE environment, you can put your hands down because if you feel about it the way I do. But that's where we were. We were there, and we were with Excel spreadsheets. And so we were able to kind of, as we were going through this, one of the things that we wanted to do was say, okay, how do we put together a infrastructure, if you will, that will allow us to really be able to ingest as much data as possible, to be able to create these tools on the fly and be able to do that in the in the most cost-effective way. And so Tableau for us is one of the ways that we've done that. That's what's sitting behind this is Alteryx. So we're using Alteryx really heavy to be able to engineer the data, to really improve the velocity of the data. It is being done on a daily basis. Sometimes some of the information you've seen is actually being refreshed on the back end every 30 minutes or every 2 hours. So Alteryx on the back end that is helping us engineer the data, pushing those to a TDE, Tableau TDE on our server, and we're now ingesting that using Hyper. That really is, I think there are about 20 million or so rows and records that before we got Hyper, it was choking our dashboards. But now with Hyper, you can see how fast we're kind of zipping through that, and that's in real time around 20 million or so records. Absolutely. Just having the view allows our leadership level at multiple levels of the company to really figure out where do they want to go attack a situation. So those that are in our product line or our product departments, they use this to figure out, okay, what type of install jobs do we need to concentrate on to make our products work better for those things that we can concentrate on. For our care department, they're looking at things that say, okay, what are those customer education related repeats that we can start to focus on so that we can reduce the truck rolls even going out to the field? Because even though a technician can show up and educate the customer, that costs us $80 every time we roll that truck. That is not the most cost-effective way to do business for us. So we want to provide that information back to our boundary partners so that we can work with them in those areas that they really care about to be able to move the meter. And then you're talking about being able to have those conversations a day later with a technician while it's fresh on their mind about, hey, here's the jobs that you don't perform well or you can use a little more, have better performance on. And it just happened yesterday. Here's what we found. And you can see how that really helps tremendously with those conversations at the front line on a day-to-day basis. I would say that we probably have about 50 or so views of all of the things that we look at within our department. A lot of those around the operational process about how we do business, what is our on-time arrival, what are the things that we can do to improve the customer experience with the NPS, what are the things that we can do from a QC perspective in real time to be able to help that technician have better quality, not just because maybe it didn't cause a repeat, but maybe they left trash around, or maybe they did something by leaving behind what we call an outdated connector or something like that from a QC perspective. I mean, we have about 50 or so dashboards, or I like to call them tools that we utilize on a day-to-day basis that really provide value back to our front line and to our executive leaders. Yeah. Our data, this is about 2 years worth of data that we're existing on. I guess it's about, I want to say about 20 million lines or so of data. Our column size in our data set is about 155 columns in the data set. So it's massive. It is a massive undertaking. And like I said before, Hyper came along, it was really a challenge for us. We either had to shrink down we couldn't provide 2 years worth of data in a view. We either had to shrink that down some to be able to do that, or we had to do some other creative things to really get the dashboard to perform the way we wanted it to perform. But since Hyper has come around, it has really kind of alleviated some of those things. Yes. Yeah, so how it's determined is, what you can't see here is I've got the enterprise average in the background. So what it's doing is saying, hey, if it is above, if it is better than the enterprise average in both categories, I'm calling that a benchmark performer. If it's worse than the enterprise average in both categories, then it is an opportunity performer. So it quickly allows you to see, okay, where can I mimic good behavior and where do I need to go for the opportunity? It's dynamic based upon whatever you choose. So, if you wanted to look at it from a site perspective, right now we're looking at site 3. So now it is all about site 3. If I come back out of site 3, now it is within the context of the central region. So it's going to be dynamic based upon whatever you choose. Not only that, it's going to be dynamic versus whatever your grain is. So right now we're looking at the node level. If I wanted to look at install jobs, it's going to all change based upon what you're choosing. So it's extracted. So we run Alteryx, and Alteryx pulls all the data together and it pushes a TDE to our Tableau servers every day. And so we are hitting we're hitting that extract on the server live. Yes. 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 So in the Alteryx process, when we're gathering the data, pulling all the data together, some of it is done every 2 hours, and we push out a new extract to make sure that it has that update, and some of it is just a daily or weekly, just based upon what the data is on the back end. So it's pretty dynamic based upon what you're looking at. So the training journey was a lot of YouTube, and actually the conferences. So, the end user. Absolutely. Absolutely. So one of the things that we utilized in our process of how do we get our end users ingratiated into utilizing this so there's just not some pretty tool sitting out there in the ether and that they're really coming on a day-to-day basis. We use a team of project managers, and we set up, we trained our project managers on how to utilize the tool, and then we allowed them to set up sessions across the enterprise on a regular cadence as we were launching this out, so that those at different levels can kind of come in, participate, and they can get trained on how to use the tool, where it's located, and things of that nature. But we did utilize a process of project managers to actually go out and promote the tool. One of the things that you want to make sure of is that you don't spend all of these hours and all of this time invested in creating these tools, and nobody comes to see them and they don't know how to utilize them. So if you don't have that type of support structure, and unfortunately for us, we do have that type of support structure where we were able to utilize those project managers. But I would advise you to, if you don't have that support structure, just set up some time on a regular cadence to say, hey, here's what I've done, or here are some updates, here's some new functionality, here's how you utilize it, and just make sure you have that back and forth feedback and engagement, because as much as you can really engage with them, the more they'll utilize your tool and the more they'll get out of it. Yes. So we can see who uses it down to the user. So I know if I'm looking at a manager and I've created something for managers, what I want to do is go look at those managers and see who's using it. Are they really using it? And then go have conversation with those managers and say what works well for you and what doesn't. So I can see, hey, this manager actually hasn't clicked on it for the first time back in December and hasn't clicked on it yet. Or this manager uses it every day. And not only do they utilize, you can start to do a basket analysis to saying, okay, you utilize this view and you also utilize these other things. What is it about this package and the way that they fit together that you can leverage and say, okay, this works or this doesn't work? So we're able to kind of, I don't know, we're not able to see how long they spend on it, but we do get to see the frequency of them utilizing it and in what context are they utilizing. So we really try to work smarter, not harder. And what I mean by that is we spend a lot of time in the back end process so that it happens automatically and we don't have to spend any more time on what I would call pulling everything together, and really spend our time as analysts and insights, providing analytics and insights. So our team is composed of about 3 in-house and about 10, I would say about 10 external that are strictly the analysts. What I wanted to do was be able to pull all of this data together. The data that you kind of see, this is just a kind of a very small universe of how we utilize this data. The data that we have that this is sitting on is so massive that it is really set up to answer about 80 to 85% of all questions someone may ask us in real time without us having to go off, write more SQL query or do other types of query to pull the data together. And we do that so that our analysts and our insights team members can really focus their energy and time on not data engineering, but actually answering questions and providing visits on the fly that really allow the users to get the information that they need. We started, I would say, for political reasons, we started top down. So the very first person that we did this demo for was the COO, to say, okay, we understand that we have some ambitious goals on transaction reduction over the next 3 to 5 years, and we understand that repeat rates are one of the things that we want to make sure that we get a handle on as it relates to that strategic goal. So the first person I went to and did a demo for, other than my immediate boss in leadership, was the COO, to get his buy-in to say, okay, if we can put together something that answers his questions or he's able to get value out of, then the rest is easy for us, so to speak. So once we did that, we kind of worked our way down the chain and said, okay, the COO likes it. Now let's take it to our market leaders. Our market leaders are a very key partner for us. So we met with all the market VPs and say, hey, here's what we're putting together. Give us your feedback. Let us know before we go to launch how we tweak it. We spent a lot of time doing that before we went to launch, getting feedback, having it tested against whether it be VPs all the way down to our supervisors in the field on a day-to-day basis. What is it that let us test run this for us, and you tell us the value that it is going to provide for you, or how can we tweak this so we get more value into your hands? So it is one of our legacy metrics, key metrics. So Tableau came along and allowed us to, not just for repeat rates, but allowed us for various other metrics to be able to really be nimble in the way that we provide analytics and insight around any one of those topics. So it is always an ongoing transaction reduction. How do we do a job better, cheaper, and faster is always one of the concerns we have as an operation group. And this was just a kind of a way to say, okay, here's what we're going to utilize in this particular area of the business to be able to produce that value. So the field techs can absolutely utilize this. One of the things that we're looking forward to is putting this in a mobile environment so that our field techs can now pull this up and on their mobile device, whether that be on a smartphone or on their tablets, and they can see their performance in real time. One of the other things that we're doing with this data is that we are also, like I said, moving into the predictive space. So now that we have this data saying here's the current state of what's going on, we're also starting to use this data to be able to smartly push information to a technician before they go into a job and say, hey, this is a job that you've not historically performed well at. Here are some of the things that we've seen when we have to come behind you. So please be mindful as you go into this job to check X, Y, Z. So starting to use this as a more predictive type of, and that's where the technicians really get the value from it. They don't get a lot of value from looking at this view of it. What they're getting from it is what this view has allowed us to now start to take this data, be more proactive and more predictive, and now making the technician more intelligent in real time.
Have you flipped it all and done a bit of a kind of a reverse on the customer-facing side and see customers might be the biggest outliers or the loudest?
Yes. So not only does it provides value of what is going on from the technician or the controllable side, it's also those things that are non-controllable when I talked about customer education. So what about our customer education process are we falling behind in? And what we've seen is that we've been able to segment that between the different demographics. What is working for us for our senior citizens is not working for us with our what we call our iTech demographic. So we're able to really do customer segmentation with the things that are relevant in their area around customer education more so than anything, about how do we make sure that if we go into this job, that we provide that customer, maybe we need to provide that customer with a little bit more time for that technician to do a little bit more incremental customer education, walk them through their remotes, how to utilize the remote, how to look at the guide, how to do some other things. So we've actually gotten some customer analytics on the back end as well. Any more questions? Well, I certainly, I'm glad you guys spent an hour with me today. I hope I was able to give you guys some value. Please make sure that you fill out the surveys and give me some feedback about what you like, what you didn't like. So as we go forward, we'll be able to provide you even more value in the future. And if you want to contact me, here's my information, and you can email me, Twitter, LinkedIn, anything, and send me some information. Maybe we could continue this dialogue after the conference. But I really appreciate it. Thank you.